The Punisher versus the Daredevil is a fight centered around morality. What it means to have true strength. So who wins? Aside from the fun of fighting, this is more than just a physical battle. It's a battle of ideology. The difference is in the level of humanity they choose to engage with. Punisher isn't just a guy anymore. After years in publication, he's gone on to become a symbol, something real life people try to believe in, or even using as the logo. Like in the real world, identity and ideology are inherently tied to fantasy. As the lines disappear more and more, so in these stories we tell ourselves and others about who we are and what we believe. As time goes on, the boundaries between reality and fantasy has started to blur. This shift is also changing in the way that we engage in conflict. Fighting has evolved into debating, which is reflected in how phones coordinate different global communities versus the local community. Today, fighting isn't just physical or violent. It takes place in the form of discourse and narrative battles. These conflicts play out through conversations, social media, and digital platforms, where ideas clash and identities are defined or challenged. Phones play a central role in this devolution, or evolution depending on how paranoid you are. They correlate also how global and local communities interact. Through them, global perspectives can easily clash with local realities. This constant negotiation between the real and the imagined ends up shaping people and how they see themselves as well as the world around them. A fight is just a clash of ideas, and any good fight is rich with meaning one way or another. For example, Daredevil is a hero, so he tries to save the Punisher's victims, even if they're bad people. The Punisher is an anti-hero, which brings him into conflict because of their different beliefs. Running into either the Punisher or Daredevil is bad luck, but probably a self-induced fate. Two sides of the war on crime. Also on making food. Frank is weak-minded and lives in pain and rage, while Matt practices forgiveness and enjoys the freedom the Daredevil gives him. Frank is escaping as a Punisher, not happy with a good existence, taken up as a physical manifestation of death, covering himself in darkness. Looked at psychologically, Frank operates on a more black and white outcome-focused intelligence, less about reflection and more about action. Immediate decisions, definitive endings, the whole shebang. Matt and Frank see the world completely differently. Matt's faith in humanity colors his experiences. To him, only God has the right to judge you. His intelligence isn't just book smarts, it's a fusion of emotional, moral, and spiritual intelligence. To Frank, you fit the list or you get iced. Or you don't, something more permanent. As a physical person, the Punisher isn't as burdened with as many moral fights, so Matt is a person that's kind of defined by his principles. To get more philosophical, superhero fights aren't just about punching. They're storytelling, shorthand for wrestling with big questions in a way that's engaging and immediate. Superheroes are rich metaphors for identity, ideology, fantasy, and power dynamics, reflecting the kind of blurred lines between fantasy and reality. A chosen symbol, a fantasy worn like armor. Just like in our real world, these identities are inseparable from ideology. Batman doesn't just fight crime, he represents a belief in justice through fear and control. Superman doesn't just fly, he embodies hope, idealism, and the American way. As the lines between reality and fantasy continue to blur even more, through technology, media, and storytelling, the battle we fight has evolved. It's less about physical conflict now, and more about ideological debate. Who gets to define truth, whose version of justice wins, and whose stories become canon. Phones like modern-day utility belts coordinate these battles. They connect us to global narratives, superhero films, movements, and collective mythologies, while also grounding us in our local realities. Superheroes reflect this perfectly. They're larger-than-life debate battles in motion. They show us what happens when fantasy becomes belief, belief becomes action. Matt is the people's devil, moving in a moral framework. The other is death, moving in a worldly framework. Both act as a form of punishment. Both men study, one for a hit and the other one for an ass beating, reflecting their inner compasses. If Daredevil is like the lawyer, then Punisher is the judge and the sentence is kinda always death. I always thought this fight works best when you frame it as something deeper. And I like to use devil versus death. Not just vigilante versus vigilante, but the Grim Reaper versus the actual devil. One wants to end you and the other one wants to save you, even if that means dragging you through hell to do it. The Punisher is death in its purest form, cold, absolute, and grounded in the harsh realities of the world. The devil is the accuser, pride keeping him from the grace of God. Matt flips this into redemption and justice even when the world doesn't deserve it. Matt fights with restraint, guided by a strict moral code that refuses to take life. Even when it's easier, even when the person might deserve it, he believes in the system even when it fails, and justice as something that must be earned. The Punisher, by contrast, skipped trial and jury altogether. To simplify even more, Frank punishes the guilty and Matt fights to protect the innocent. One believes people can change and the other one believes they die as they are. The hope that refusal to give in to darkness is what makes Daredevil a superhero, and not just a man in a mask. The Punisher sees Daredevil as soft, a man too afraid to do what's necessary, too wrapped up in rules to make real change. To Frank, Matt's mercy is weakness, but Daredevil sees it the other way. He sees Frank as the weak one, someone who gave up on people, who let pain turn him into a weapon because it was easier for holding on to hope. Matt fights every day to not cross that line. Realistically, that's the core of their conflict. Crossed that line a long time ago and doesn't look back. It's not about tactics, it's about belief. One believes in redemption and the other one believes in the grave. The fight between Daredevil and the Punisher isn't just fists and bullets, it's a debate. A clash of beliefs. Frank thinks mercy is weakness, that actions means ending the threat for good. Matt argues that morality has to mean something, especially when it's hard, which philosophically brings us back to our discussion of identity. It's the same energy you see on online communities nowadays. You're one-sided too soft, the other saying you're too extreme. It's less about who's right and more about what you believe justice should look like. Just like your phone, everyone thinks they're on the right side, and they fight like they need to prove it. For Matt and Frank, that debates leave bodies in its wake. They literally fight wearing their belief systems on themselves. But I need to stop myself before getting too deep into something else. I thought I was going to talk about this longer, but I guess I'm going to start wrapping up. Live to try again, you get the devil. It's your time to go, you get the Punisher. So what's the conclusion? In the end, and in my opinion, Daredevil is right. It's easy to kill, easy to let pain harden you and call it strength. What's hard is holding onto your humanity in a world that's trying to take it from you. That's what makes Matt more than just a vigilante. It's what makes him a superhero. A true hero isn't one that can stand in front of evil and pull the trigger. A true hero is one that can stand next to innocence, to the pure, and not feel ashamed. Someone who can still recognize goodness and still believe in it. That's what Frank doesn't understand. Being feared isn't the same as being right, and surviving isn't the same thing as living. In today's world, people can actually embody their ideas more clearly thanks to the age of branding. Andrew Tate becomes a toxic figurehead, enabling his communities of younger guys to think women are always our fault. Daredevil and Punisher are characters, yes, but they're also bigger than life personalities, values, and identities. This is a concept that morally is spilling into our real world. With so much information, some people get stuck in what I consider ideology clusters. They fall into ego cages and end up becoming social media heroes or social media warriors, fighting for whatever they've been convinced to believe in. It's more than a debate as to who's right and wrong, it's the modern fight for truth. In today's world, the same philosophies play out in real time, not in alleys and rooftops, but in algorithms and comment sections. We live in the age of branding, where personalities become ideologies, and ideologies become identity, and identity becomes reality. Frank Castle confuses dominance with justice and bitterness with truth. We have a problem. Daredevil represents the harder path, the path of accountability, compassion, restraint. He's not just a blind lawyer, but a devout true believer. Punisher takes the easy way out. Morality doesn't come easy, and the Punisher ignores it. He's already on a suicide mission. He's a person that rejects higher morality. As the lines disappear more and more, fighting has evolved, which is reflected in how phones coordinate different global communities. Daredevil is a coordinated identity, not just a man, but a symbol for others built from faith, trauma, guilt, and myth. Everything has meaning, so go grab a book. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Phones are evil, they're stealing our souls, and I don't like it. But hey, if you like the video, like and subscribe, and yeah, stay safe.